He sits alone, an old king. Heavy robe, heavy silence. The room smells of wax and smoke. Candles flicker against wooden walls. Outside, winter presses against the palace windows. His hand trembles, not from age, from memory. People feared him. They called him powerful. They called him terrible. But tonight, he looks small. He stares at the floor, at a spot no one else would notice, a place where something ended. Hours earlier, the palace was not quiet. Voices rose, footsteps echoed, anger filled the room. His son stood before him, young, confident, alive, the future of a kingdom. The old king felt challenged, not attacked, challenged. And for a man who ruled by fear, that was enough. His grip tightened, wood against palm, metal catching candlelight. One step forward, one shout, one swing. The sound was dull, not loud, just final. The young man fell. The room froze. The king did not breathe. Then came the silence. He dropped the staff, fell to his knees, called his son's name. But power cannot rewind a moment, and rage does not ask permission. Now the palace is quiet again, too quiet. A king sits alone, a father without an heir. And somewhere in the silence, one question remains. Did he rule his kingdom, or did fear rule him? He wasn't always feared. Once, he was just a boy. Small hands, quiet eyes, listening more than speaking. The palace felt different back then. Not silent, not peaceful, just unpredictable. Adults whispered behind doors. Boots moved at night. Arguments stopped when he entered. He learned early. Silence meant danger. His father disappeared first. Not slowly, not gently. Just gone. The boy waited for answers. None came. Then his mother grew weaker. Fewer smiles, more guards, more locked rooms. One morning, she did not wake. They said it was illness. The boy watched their faces. No one looked sad. He understood something. People could lie. Politely. After that, the palace changed. Or maybe he did. Nobles walked like they owned the halls. They ignored him, sometimes laughed, sometimes pushed him aside. The future ruler of a kingdom, treated like furniture. He ate alone. He slept lightly. He watched everything. One night he saw men fighting, not soldiers, advisors. They grabbed each other, shouted, threatened. No one stopped them. No one protected the boy. Power, he learned, wasn't stable. It moved. It shifted. It survived by fear. So he collected it, quietly, inside. The boy who needed safety began to trust control. The child who wanted love began to expect betrayal. And when fear becomes normal, anger doesn't feel dangerous. It feels useful. Years later, a king would raise his hand. But the motion started here, in corridors full of whispers, in rooms without comfort. A frightened child, learning that the world listens only when someone is afraid. So the question lingers. Was he born cruel or shaped by a childhood where kindness never felt safe? The boy grew taller, but he never looked relaxed. Servants bowed now. Nobles lowered their eyes. The same halls felt quieter. Fear had changed direction. He remembered everything. The whispers, the pushing, the nights alone. Power didn't surprise him. He had been waiting for it. They placed the crown on his head. Heavy, cold, real. The room watched closely. Some hopeful, some careful, some afraid. He did not smile. He just sat still, learning how silence feels from the other side. The young ruler spoke softly, not loudly, not wildly, softly. That confused people. He listened to advisors, asked questions, read laws, studied maps. The frightened child looked like a thoughtful king. He made changes, careful ones, measured ones. Courts became more organized, rules more clear, punishments more controlled. For the first time, some believed stability was coming. He even laughed sometimes. Quiet, rare, but real. Hope began to live in the palace, a dangerous thing after years of fear. Yet something stayed inside him, a habit, a reflex. He trusted structure, but not people. Every smile felt temporary. Every promise felt fragile. He ruled calmly, but watched constantly. Because a child who survives chaos doesn't forget how quickly it returns. The crown gave him authority. It did not give him peace. And beneath the calm decisions, fear still waited. Quiet, patient. So the question begins to form. When a frightened child finally holds power, does he build safety or build control, strong enough to never feel helpless again? And when control becomes comfort, how far will he go to keep it? He trusted very few people, but he trusted her. She spoke softly, moved gently, never reached for power. When he sat beside her, the room felt different, quieter, safer. The young ruler still watched everyone, but not her, never her. She became his balance, the one place fear did not follow. He laughed more, slept longer, listened instead of suspected. For a moment, the crown felt lighter. Then she grew ill. Not suddenly, slowly, quietly. The palace changed again. Footsteps softened. Doors closed. Whispers returned. He stayed near her bed. Hours passing, candles burning low. Her hand felt colder each night. He searched faces, doctors, nobles, servants, looking for truth, finding only careful sounds. The child inside him remembered illness, whispers, loss without answers. When she stopped breathing, no one spoke. He didn't cry at first. He just stared, waiting for movement. None came. Something hardened. Not loudly, not visibly, but permanently. Love had felt safe. Now it felt dangerous. If she could be taken, anyone could. If she could die quietly, someone could be responsible. Suspicion filled the space grief left behind. He asked questions, received polite answers, heard lies anyway. The calm ruler began to disappear. The watcher returned, stronger, sharper, colder. Because loss without explanation does not end. It grows. And when grief mixes with power, fear becomes a weapon. So the question deepens. Did her death break his heart? Or break the last barrier, holding back the boy who only trusted control? And when love disappears, what stops fear from ruling everything? The king who killed his own son in rage, Ivan the Terrible, approximately 400 words. He stopped sleeping well, not completely, just enough to dream and wake suspicious. Servants noticed first. He asked the same question twice, then 3 times, then again later. Not louder, just colder. He watched meals closely, touched cups before drinking, paused between bites. Food became risk. Silence became threat. The court felt it. Conversations shortened. Smiles faded quicker. No one knew what he suspected. That made it worse. He began separating people, not publicly, quietly. Some nobles were moved away. Others lost titles. A few simply disappeared. No announcement, no explanation, just absence. The palace adapted. Eyes lowered. Voices softened. Fear spread faster than orders. Then he created something new. Not an army. Not exactly. Men dressed in black. Faces serious. Horses dark against winter snow. They answered only to him. They rode through towns, slowly, not shouting, not rushing. Just visible. Doors closed when they passed. Children pulled indoors. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. No one wanted attention. He believed danger hid everywhere. So he brought fear everywhere. Homes were searched, letters examined, whispers treated like crimes. Some men begged, some protested. Most stayed silent. Because silence felt safer than truth. The king watched reports arrive. Names, suspicions, confessions. Each paper confirmed what he already felt. Trust was fragile. Control was necessary. The frightened child inside him finally had protection. But protection built on fear demands more fear. So the circle tightened. Neighbors doubted neighbors. Friends avoided friends. Even loyalty looked suspicious. The kingdom grew quieter, not peaceful, careful. And in that careful silence, power felt absolute. He had removed uncertainty, or so it seemed. Yet something changed, not outside, inside. When fear obeys you, it also feeds you. The king who once searched for safety now created it through terror. And terror works. At first. So the question begins to sharpen. Was he protecting his throne or protecting himself from a world he believed had already betrayed him? And when fear becomes the language of power, how long before violence sounds like the only answer? He grew up watching the fear, not from outside, from inside the palace. The son learned early. Silence meant survival. He walked carefully, spoke gently, listened more than he argued. People noticed the difference. Where the father was sharp, the son was steady. Where the father suspected, the son tried to understand. He didn't challenge loudly. He chose moments, quiet ones. A walk in a corridor, a conversation after court, a seat beside the throne. He spoke about mercy, not as weakness, as stability. He spoke about loyalty, not as fear, as trust. The king listened, sometimes, not always. For a moment, the room softened. Because the son did something rare. He talked to the king like a father, not just a ruler. That was dangerous. He asked questions others avoided, careful ones, respectful ones. Why punish the loyal? Why fear the silent? Why rule alone? The king did not explode, not yet. But something tightened. Advice can sound like doubt to someone who already suspects everything. The son meant comfort. The father heard challenge. Still, the son kept trying. He believed closeness could heal distance, that patience could calm fear, that family could restore trust. But fear does not relax easily. Every suggestion felt like pressure. Every concern felt like criticism. The king watched his own son the way he watched everyone else. Carefully, quietly, suspiciously. And that changed everything. Because when trust disappears inside a family, love begins to feel unsafe. The son reached out. The father stepped back. Both trying to protect something. One protecting hope, the other protecting control. So the question begins to form. Can kindness reach a man who believes fear keeps him alive? And when a father sees doubt in the voice of his own son, how long before love starts to look like betrayal? He still believed his father could be reached, even after the silence, even after the suspicion. The son walked in, not as a prince, as a protector. He had heard what happened. A shout, a door slammed, a woman crying. His wife, she had been accused of dressing improperly, of disrespect, of something small that felt large to the king. The son saw her shaking, humiliated, afraid to even speak. Something inside him shifted. He had stayed calm before, careful, measured. But this time, it was family. He stepped toward his father, voice controlled, not soft anymore. He asked why. Not as a subject, as a son. Why hurt her? Why shame her? Why rule even the home with fear? The king stiffened because the room had changed. This was no longer advice. It sounded like defiance. The son didn't stop. He spoke about dignity, about respect, about restraint. Each word careful, each word dangerous. The king heard accusation, not concern. Years of suspicion filled the silence. You think I'm weak. You think I've gone too far. You think you know better. The son tried to answer, but anger moves faster than reason. The king stood, sudden, violent. The room froze. Servants stepped back. No one spoke. The son didn't move. He held his ground. Not challenging, just refusing to retreat. That was enough. The king grabbed his staff, the same one he carried everywhere, symbol of authority, of control. He raised it. For a moment, it looked like a warning. Then it fell. A sharp sound, wood against bone. The sun collapsed. Silence swallowed the room. The king didn't breathe, didn't move. Then reality rushed in. He dropped the staff, fell to his knees, called his son's name. Blood spread slowly, too slowly. The son looked at him, still conscious, still calm. No anger, only shock. Maybe forgiveness? The king pressed his hands to the wound, as if he could push time backward. He whispered, he begged, he trembled. But rage doesn't rewind. The palace stayed silent. No one dared move. Because everyone understood, this wasn't just a blow. It was a line crossed forever. A father struck, a son fell, a kingdom watched. And in that quiet, one question remained. When power becomes habit and fear becomes language, how long before love is mistaken for rebellion? He stayed beside him, not as a king, as a father. His hands shook, still pressing the wound, still hoping the bleeding would stop. The son barely moved, breathing, slower now, eyes unfocused. The king whispered his name, again and again. No orders, no commands, just fear. He tried to speak calmly, like nothing had happened, like reassurance could undo pain. You'll be fine. Stay with me. Don't close your eyes. But the room already felt different. Servants watched silently. No one dared step forward. No one dared speak truth. Because everyone saw it. Power had slipped and revealed something fragile. The king's voice broke. He begged. He promised. Anything, everything, too late. The son looked at him one last time, not accusing, not afraid, just distant. And then stillness. The king froze, hands stained, breath gone. For the first time, no enemy, no conspiracy, only himself. The palace felt colder, quieter. Because the man who ruled through fear had finally found something fear could not control: regret. And the question lingered: if power can take everything, who protects us from the moment we lose control? He kept ruling, but something had changed. The halls felt wider, quieter, emptier. The king still gave orders, still punished, still demanded loyalty. But the certainty was gone. People bowed lower now, spoke softer, left faster. Not respect, not love, just distance. Because everyone knew fear had finally reached his own blood. The throne looked the same, the crown unchanged. But the future felt fragile. The son who might have softened the rule was gone. What remained was silence, suspicion, memory. The king built control, but lost trust. And history kept the image: a father, a staff, a moment that never faded. So the question lingers: when fear protects power, what happens when it destroys the only thing meant to replace it?